What's going on, Dave?
What's going on, Joe?
Dude, both of us excited about being here and wanting to speak. So,
That's right.
uh,
That's right. We're just like all itching and scratching to talk about this week's podcast.
right. Well, thank you. Welcome to all of our viewers and listeners to the Journeys of Not So Ordinary podcast. So I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Joe Hamlett, and then my esteemed colleague here is Dr. Dave Peltz. Hope you all have been enjoying our podcast. We definitely have, as you can see, like I say, excited about jumping into today's topic. So, all the kind of confusion at the very beginning. So, how's your day going so far, Dave?
It's going great. It's going great. It's another beautiful day in southern Arizona. Can't complain. Weather's beautiful.
Right.
No clouds in the sky, but that's what happens when you're in a dry climate.
That's true. But living in California, the West Coast for quite a few years, I really grew to love that dry weather and the sun shining over your head, no clouds in the sky. But that's cool. So I don't have the nice balmy weather like you do, but we'll get up to about 70 today, so I'll accept that. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Well, today's topic. So this is kind of where we all started. Why we all started this thing, and it's our topic today is journey. So the journey, and what that really means. And so just kind of jump into it. A taste. So the journey. We talk about that on every episode. Our title is the Journey of Not So Ordinary People podcast, and it's because our entire life is a journey. Everybody's life is a journey, whether you
True.
you know take the left, like if you look at our logo up there, you'll see there's two directions. And one could represent me, the other could represent Dave, or they both could represent us both. But then, just beyond that logo, what you see there, it may twist back to the other side. So the idea that we are all on a journey is why we're definitely here. So with that, Dave, what are your thoughts about the journey?
The journey, to your point, the title of the podcast, that really captures the essence of what we talk about every week. And it, our journeys are very unique. There are a lot of similarities as well. So for as similar as they are, they can be very distinct, unique, sometimes ambiguous, confusing, sometimes very clear and crisp as to what we're doing. Sometimes it's like a fabric and it weaves nicely, and sometimes it's just like a ball of yarn that a cat's gotten the hold of, and it's just like you wonder what has been created here. So yeah, it's the life is a journey, work is a journey, our family's a journey, our friends are a journey, everything's a journey. It's just how we approach it and what we do with it. And that's what we're going to talk about today, I think, right?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. So the caveat, some of the things that you just said, I really like the fact that you said, we could start on the same journey. So if you imagine a race, me and you both handed the same blueprint, or that path that we should take, and it's going to be guaranteed that even if we both have that same blueprint in front of us, we're likely going to still take a different journey. But
Hmm.
even if we had the same, high markers or level markers, or places we're supposed to get to, we're probably going to get there differently.
Hmm.
If we live in two different parts of the country, or different parts of the world, our journey is going to be different, even if we had the same blueprint in front of us. That's a proven journey for somebody else. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same journey for us.
Hmm.
And that's the power in our journey. You touched on it, the fact that um, you know, your journey may put some things in front of you that may help you, or they may hinder you. And part of that journey is, how do you know, overcome those things? How do you um, take what you find or have in front of you and change it to a positive? How do you, navigate your own journey. And that's the powerful part of it, because again, we've all been faced with situations, and one choice takes us down this path and the other choice takes us down the other path. It may not be so good. So it's, all of us are on our own journey, and sometimes we do come to that crossroad, or again, referring to our logo in the background, you're going straight down this street or down this path, and then there's an obstacle. And you see some of the movies sometimes when they come to a tunnel, they're inside of a cavern or something, they come across 2 or 3 tunnels, and they're like, which one do I choose?
Yeah.
And that's really sometimes what life is about, is sometimes choosing, thinking you're on the right path, and it's not, and you end up having to circle back or try and find an alternate to get you back to the other path. So the journey for everybody is going to be different, and I think part of it, like Dave said, it is how you are able to navigate your own journey. I think that's the biggest piece of it.
Yeah, Joe, and I like where you started out talking about a race, and I immediately went back to, of all things, this is silly, grade school. I was in 7th or 8th grade. I think I was 7th grade, and I remember, we were going out to the track for gym class, and it's just a circle track, right? It's an oval, right? Just an oval.
Right.
And I was thinking, the starting point's the same, the destination's the same. We're all running the same circle for this track, and it looks identical, but it's not, because the number of steps, the number of breaths, how you breathe, how you focus, what you're focused on. Are you thinking about music? Are you thinking about the dirt? Are you thinking about the track? Are you thinking about the teacher? Are you thinking about the students? Are you thinking about the competition? Everything within that journey is different. The starting point and the destination may be identical, and you may start and arrive at the exact same time, but your path along that journey, that circle, can be completely different. You might be passing and weaving and bobbing and jumping and skipping. You may be walking. Who knows? You may be going fast or slower. You may be talking, not talking. All those things are variables that you navigate on your journey. And just like a road trip, you might start out in New York and end in LA. Not quite sure you'd want to end in LA, but there are better destinations. Point being, you may start and end at the same place, but with all those roads and detours and circle backs and I got to go north and then west, and then all that's part of our journey, and that's what creates the richness of us as individuals, and how we start finding those commonalities with other people, and how we create those networks and solidify those relationships, and positive and negative, pros and cons, lessons learned, what worked, what didn't. All that creates the richness of our individual journeys. And Joe and I like to refer to and talk about our long scenic route, and sometimes our routes are pretty direct. It's like, we're going from this point to this point, and it's pretty straightforward. But again, even though it's a short little route, it can still be all these little zigzags. When you zoom in, it's like, you're looking at the map of the United States all of a sudden, when before it was just like this little dot you were looking at. So, the journey is as important, if not more important, and this is nothing new, but we've all heard this, but the journey is as important or more important than the destination, because it's what you do, what you learn along the route to get to your destination. And,
wow, Dave, man, you said a lot, and I was trying to, I didn't want to jump in there because you was
I'm
on
a little
roll.
chatty this morning.
Well, because you talk about the journey, and there are so many things, and you said it, variables, and that's what a lot of people don't see. When they try and compare themselves, and we talked about this before, when we try and compare ourselves to other people, we have not gone through their journey. We have not, like you said, seen that they started their destination the same place we did, but they did run into obstacles and roadblocks and things that we didn't see. And by the same token, we had our own obstacles
and they
that
may
they
not even
couldn't
want to
see.
share those obstacles.
Exactly. So that's why, we go back to that whole idea, back in one of the episodes earlier, about success and how we measure our own success. And we said it. Our journey may be that it's difficult for us to get out of the bed. So success for us, in our journey may be that we got out of the bed today. We went outside. So, like I said, you said a lot of things in there that made a lot of sense. Even the analogy that you gave with starting on a track, an oval track, and all those variables. Because in my case, what I started thinking of immediately is because I hate running, and part of it is because I have big flat feet. I don't have arches. And so for me, when I run a couple of laps, it's painful. Where somebody else, high arch, lighter than me, I'm, probably bigger in stature than a lot of people. So for me, just those few laps around that track are going to be painful for me, where somebody else, they're going to be enjoyable. So just something as simple as that, could make a world of difference. So my journey along that, to get to that end stop, a mile, say it is, that's going to be very challenging for me, where somebody else who was born to run could run 20 miles and look like they never ran 1 mile. So though, just that simple analogy that you gave there is kind of saying, and as far as our journeys of life, and you mentioned it, the long scenic route. And we talk about that all the time. We laugh and joke about it, but the reality is it does define us, to who we are. All those experiences, all those letdowns, all those peaks, all those lows, all those things matter. And I think part of the most important thing about that is how you respond to some of those things, and that could be where your journey changes for the good or for the bad. And so,
and Joe, you sparked something when you were talking about the lap, and what the experience would or might look like for you. And then I started thinking, okay, so Joe gets around the track, and I get around the track, and other people get around the track, and we all hit that same destination, that finish mark, that finish point, that line. Now, what do you do? Once you're at that destination, do you stop? Do you look around? Do you look back? Do you just look forward? Do you just keep going? You don't even pause. You just blow through and just keep going. Like, we've seen some characters doing movies. They just keep running. They just keep running.
Right.
Or do you go back and help people? And I go back to my days in the military. We had to do our mile-and-a-half run, every year for fitness. And some people, they would just blaze through it, and then they'd keep going, and then next thing you know, they're running out to the parking lot, into their car, and they're going home. They went to one destination, they've got another destination in mind. And then other people, they stop and they catch their breath, and they chit chat, and they look around. And then other people, they just keep running the same circle. And other people, they stop or pause, and they go back and they start helping others.
So start cheering others on.
When we reach the proverbial end, or the perceived end of our journey for that marker, what do we do with that? How do we use that in our journey? Do we use it to help ourselves, others? Do we take, and this is going to sound kind of silly, that journey or that story that we have from going to the ice cream shop or the store, and something small or big that we experienced, do we take those lessons to work with us and share it with people, or our peers or our colleagues and friends and family, saying, hey, there's a pothole, or hey, I found a quicker route, or hey, if you go this way, it's so beautiful, and the sky and the trees and the flowers and the cacti, or do we be like, yeah, whatever you do, don't take this vehicle because it's not good. I mean, what do we do with all this information, all this knowledge and wisdom and experience that we gain from our journeys in life and work, in friendships, relationships, networking? What do we do with that?
So Dave, be honest. Are you describing our podcast by chance?
Well,
you took the long scenic route.
I took the long scenic route again.
Get us here to describing exactly.
I could have probably said that in about 3 seconds. Instead, I drove on for a minute and a half.
No, but that is a very good way to put it. that you're right. That what do you do with that knowledge, that experience on your journey? Like you say, do you run to the next one? What's
Keep
the
going.
next
Some people
challenge?
do.
What's you know? Or like you said, do you help others to become that cheerleader, rooting those other people on that's still trying to finish that mile and a half? Are you one of those people that run back and grab them on by the shoulder and say, "Hey, let's go, we got this"? So that is a very cool way you said that. Even like you say, identifying potholes and things like that, and so that I think is representative of what our podcast is all about, the journeys of not so ordinary people. It really is, because that's really what we want to do in this space here. Why we come back every week is to hopefully provide you with some nuggets and information that will help you in your journey. Again, this is not going to be this blueprint that's going to get you from A to Z, but it hopefully it will add some of those things that you may not see coming around the corner. That we don't want it to blindside you, like in some cases it did for us. So we're not just going to take the slap in the face and then just keep going and stand around the corner and watch the other person get the slap. That's not what we want to do. We want to help. We want to call out, hey, there's a slap, or you watch out, this is what's going to happen to you. And so I really like how you playfully went around that topic, but that is what this is all about for us. It is about helping you, even if it's nothing wrong with taking the long scenic route, but there's also some areas that maybe you might enjoy them, but we just want to highlight that those are maybe some issues for some people. So again, not to try and give you the blueprint on what's going to get you from A to Z, but hopefully we can help you with maybe you look at, like Dave said, maybe there's a route that you can take that's got greeneries, got flowers blooming and things like that might be more appealing to look at, versus going down an alley where there's garbage, trash, things like that. So that's hopefully what you're gaining from us sitting down week to week and having these conversations. So I really appreciate the way you did that, Dave. I know there's kind of a motive why what you were doing, but that was pretty cool. So
it's kind of like we're going through, and it's like all these little loops and stuff like that, but we're still trying to get to the end up here, but we're just like looping all these things in there. One of the other pieces I wanted to throw in there is, what about, and we've talked about this in the past, when do you take time to reflect, or
right.
do
Yep.
you take time to reflect? And then, to your point about the roadmap or the blueprint, that is such a valid comment, because I think about, when I was a kid, putting together, and I haven't heard this in years, models of all things, plastic
Right.
models of
Yeah, you're
cars
right.
or planes and boats and ships, or, you get something in the mail, like, and it's like, well, you need to, assembly required, and here's the
Right. Yeah.
instructions or the blueprint for it. And it's like, and you look at it, and sometimes you scratch your head and you're like, how does those two pieces fit together? And it's like,
Right.
well, you put piece A to piece B and they just magically fit, or do they? And then
Right.
sometimes you look at it and you go, okay, I'm going to do exactly what it says, and it works, right? And then sometimes you do exactly what it says and it winds up looking like this. And it's like, well, that's not the same as the picture.
Right.
Or maybe you look at it, you're like, well, maybe I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to scrape a little
Yep.
here. I'm going to sand a little here. I'm going to polish this. I'm going to paint that. And maybe it turns out completely different than you expected, in a good way, or maybe in a not so good way. And you're like,
Yep.
wow, that does not look like a car at all. It looks like a pile of dirt with some sticks in it, And
Right.
it's like, where did that come from? I followed the directions, the instructions, the blueprint, and it's completely different. And that can be okay sometimes, and it's just, so what do we use how do we use these blueprints? What do we do, and when do we reflect? If we reflect, sometimes there isn't time to reflect.
So that's you bring up a good point with the reflection piece. So go back to that analogy you made about making a laps around the track, and like you said, for our PT or physical fitness test back in the Air Force was a mile and a half. So for me, as I said, running was not my strong suit. I had physical physical limitations for me that were not, that pleasant. So for me, when you talk about the reflection piece, when I finish my mile and a half, for me, that is a huge celebration.
Mhm.
That is a point in time when I reflect and I say, man, this was great, and I don't run to the next thing because I know this is for me, it's very big,
Mhm.
it's huge.
Yeah, you got to
So I take
celebrate.
that, yeah, I take that time to reflect on that accomplishment in this particular case. But then I do kind of what you said. I go back and now I start encouraging others and start helping others because for me, I knew that was a journey. I knew that
Mhm.
for me was a hard task. And for other people that may be encouraged, it may not be. But like you said, that person that it's not a big deal. They run right out to the parking lot and keep going, jump in their car and go to the next one. That's because for them, it might have been very easy. A mile and a half for them is nothing. Matter of fact, along this line, 5 or 6 years ago, we had to do our physical fitness test, and we had to actually go to a location which was almost a mile away. And so we all got on this bus, went to this location to do our mile and a half, right? And we're all ready to go at the starting line, and we're like, "Oh, we're waiting on one more," and we're like, I thought everybody was on the bus. No, there was this one guy that ran to the location that we could do our mile and a half. So this was one of those individuals. For him, this was no big deal because he typically ran 5 or 6 miles a day.
Mhm.
So, that is definitely relevant. And like you say, when do we take time to celebrate or reflect on it? And in my case, that's what it was, in this particular instance. And so, like, to your point, um, it is important for you to, definitely celebrate those accomplishments or those milestones that you reach, sometimes before you continue into the next one. Because I'll be honest, with my education journey, I earned my associates, two associates, I earned my bachelor's, I earned my master's degree, and then I did not celebrate, even walk across the stage for that acknowledgement, that validation, until my doctorate degree. So I just kept pushing myself and pushing myself and pushing myself until the end. Then that's when I finally celebrated. But in
Mhm.
my eyes, that was the end of my journey. Because
Mhm.
I knew if I stopped, gave myself, celebrated too much, then I'd be like, you know what, that's just far enough. And so
Mhm.
I purposely did not celebrate each achievement, each milestone being reached. And that I did that intentionally. So, to your point, that's all part of it too. Picking and choosing the time that you celebrate and reflect on, that journey. So I just thought that was kind of important that you brought that up about the reflection piece and celebrating and that journey to that point. So
And Joe, I really love the anecdote about the everyone's on the bus except for one person. Where's so and so? And it's like
right,
they're already there. They're waiting on
right,
you guys. It's like, that's another great example of, people having the same starting point, the same
yep,
destination, but taking completely different journeys to get there. And in that case, that individual got the and I'm supposing or hypothesizing or assuming that they got there uh, before everyone else. And it doesn't mean that their journey was any less or any more intense. It's just that was the approach or the vehicle,
right,
unintended, that
yeah,
they
yeah,
chose to get from point A to point B, and maybe it was faster and maybe it was quicker and more enjoyable for them and all that. And maybe it consumed more energy or maybe less energy. Maybe it would take more energy for them to sit still on the bus and socialize than for them just to get there, and burn some calories and get some
yeah,
exercise. It's everyone's journey is totally unique. On
yeah,
the surface, they may look identical. Dave and Joe, doctorate degree, military, same. Well, not really. It's not
right,
the same. On the surface, yeah, those journeys look the same. But when we start again zooming in to that map, you see the world and you zoom in, you start seeing countries and continents and states and cities and towns, and all of a sudden you start seeing the streets, and it's like, wow, this city is nothing like this city,
Right, right,
and and that may be our destination, but maybe our starting points are different, and how we get there is completely different. So, and I would argue that if you and I started out in the same town and took the same flight and did everything side by side, Buffy and Jody, two Bobbsey twins, just going, it would still be entirely unique to us
right,
because we
right,
are individuals. Your
right,
perceptions and strategies and accomplishments and you know ideas on how to get from point A to point B are completely different. And even if you and I are traveling side by side, step by step, that still does not address the cognitive journey that we have taken to get there, because
right.
you and I are as similar as we are. And I know we're practically twins. I get that, but we're we're not we're not twins, and what goes on in our heads is completely different because of how we've grown up in our experiences. and
Right,
i and I
right.
still get confused. So I look at the podcast, I'm like, I can't tell which one of us, because we're so similar. I know maybe the other people are like, you guys are total fools.
No, no, so one of us, it's obvious one of us has been taking some type of visual enhancement type of drug, and the other one is more calm and realistically looking at this. So those are two different journeys we both have taken this morning, it
Exactly.
appears. So,
I think we're having a little bit too much fun today.
but you know what, Dave, all of this is relevant. All of this is the importance of your own journey. I mean, it really is. Like you say, and I really like the analogy that you made about, blowing up a map. We both say start in the exact same location, our starting point. But like you say, as you blow up that map and really start to peel back, like what city did you go through? What
Mhm.
detours did you encounter? Did you end up going down, get off the wrong exit and go down that not so nice looking area, or did you get off the area where they got rainbows and you see unicorns along lining the street? So that's I
Talking about
like that
visual
analogy.
enhancements. I don't know about unicorns.
But that's a very good analogy
Yeah.
because again, that's what a lot of people don't see. Like you said, we both start at the same starting point, but nobody really sees what it took for you to get there. Like you say, your motivation for getting there. My intentions, like I say, with my degree, was not to celebrate. But in your case, I believe you did celebrate, every step of the way or
I
almost.
did.
And so again, like you said, it's as twinsies as we are, there's definitely still some obvious differences. So I just like that idea that that we embrace our own journeys, because that's what
Mhm.
it's about. And it goes back to one of the episodes we said before where we're comparing each other, uh ourselves to other people, and again, we have not seen their journey, we didn't live their journey, we can only assume from what we see on the outside what their journey was like. And so that's why I love the journey that I've been on. Like we always jokingly say the long scenic route, and I would not be here today if I hadn't taken the long scenic route. But by the same token, uh, we had to struggle through some things that necessarily we maybe not had to. So again, that's why we started this podcast, was so that we could potentially provide you with some tips, tricks. Like I said, we don't want you to come around the corner and get slapped in the face. Remember used to go to the old haunted houses, and I remember this. My cousin, we all went to the haunted house, and one of these guys jump up, and the first response from my cousin was to punch him, and so he hit the hit the ghoul or whatever it was in the face. So we all saw that, so we were there to witness that and saw, okay, that's, that's what could happen. But that group behind us, this person could have got punched 12 times that night because nobody said, hey, watch out for the guy there. So jokingly, that's what this is all about, is to help you not punch the gruel because you got, you saw him and he frightened you. So this has been a fun topic for us again, because this is what it's all about, the journey. And so before I take us out, I'll give you some time here today to finish out your thoughts on the journey.
Yeah, I just like to take us back to the analogy of the track and the circle, and just, what are we doing with our journeys, and how are we perceiving them? Are we taking that time to celebrate and contemplate and reflect, all the things that we've talked about in the other podcasts? And then what are we doing with that? Are we saying, hey, look out for this guy right here? Or are we stopping and watching everyone else get slapped, and laughing and chuckling because it's funny or cute? Or are we just pressing on about our own day and because we have our own agenda? And just to remember that as much as we may look the same or similar on the surface or on paper, wow, which candidate is the best one out of these two? Oh, they're the same. Just pick one. But they're not the same, because you have to,
Right.
really think about and consider that, again, going back to Joe and I, our journeys are very different. Even if we take the exact same trip together, holding hands, our cognitive journeys are figuratively, Joe, figuratively, metaphorically, you know, that our cognitive journeys are going to be completely different because of our own individual life journeys that have gotten us to that point,
Yeah.
and we really need to respect and appreciate each other for what we bring to the table, diversity wise, and I'm talking about, more the diversity of thought and the creativity that goes
Right.
along with
Yeah.
everybody. We're all individuals that come together to share towards maybe a common goal, maybe a not so common goal, but our journeys are there to be shared, I believe, and for the
Right.
betterment.
Well, Dave, I appreciate that. And like I said, this has been an enjoyable topic for both of us, I believe. So, as you think about your journey, I mean, just what Dave said, I believe it too. It should be a diversity of, of thought, and not necessarily, we're not talking race or anything like that, but we're talking, how do we benefit or help one another benefit, because we're all probably shooting for the same goal for the most part. So how do we help each other, and help each other overcome some of those obstacles that we face? Like you say, do we just sit back and watch everybody else struggle trying to climb that hill where, we just kind of look down on them now that we've gotten to where we are? So, like I said, this has been a very, very good topic for me, and like I said, me and Dave have had fun with this one. So, we just want to encourage you to continue being your not so ordinary you. And until next time, we'll see you.